NYC Media, you guys ready? Thank you. Sir, we're ready to go.
Good afternoon and welcome to the stated meeting of May 25th, 2023. I'm Majority Leader Keith Powers. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here today. If you'd like to follow along, the agenda for today's meeting is posted on our website.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Abreu.
Present.
Ariola.
Present.
Aviles.
Presente.
Ayala.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Botcher.
Here.
Brannan.
Still here.
Brewer.
Here.
Brooks Powers.
Present.
Caban.
Present.
Carr. De La Rosa.
Here.
Dinowitz.
Here.
Farias.
Present.
Felice.
Present.
Gennaro.
Here.
Gutierrez.
Presente.
Hanif.
Here.
Hanks.
Present.
Holden.
Here.
Hudson.
Present.
Joseph.
Present.
Kagan. Krishnan.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Lewis.
Present.
Marte.
Here.
Mealy. Menon.
Here.
Moya. Narcisse.
Present.
Nurse. Osei.
Present.
Palladino.
Here.
Wrestler.
Here.
Richardson Jordan.
Here.
Riley.
Present.
Rivera.
Present.
Salamanca.
Present.
Sanchez.
Present.
Shulman.
Here.
Stevens.
Here.
Ung.
Present.
Velasquez. Vernikoff. Williams.
Here.
Juan.
Here.
Yeager. Borelli.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
Speaker Adams.
Present.
Thank you. We'll now have today's invocation, which will be delivered by Reverend Evan Dean Gray, Sr., the pastor of Macedonia Baptist Church, located at 330 Beach 67th Street in Queens. Welcome.
Shall we pray? Thank you, Heavenly Father, for allowing us to see a brand new day, a day that we've never in these chambers. Keep their families safe from all hurt, harm, and danger. Give us the fortitude to stand against things that are harmful to our wonderful citizens of the city of New York. As we stand, God, give us the courage to stand and look bigotry in the eye and banish it from our very presence. Father, we thank you for what you have done, and we thank you for your glory. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks for being with us. Thanks. Thank you. I'm going to now call on Councilmember Brooks Powers to spread the invocation on the record.
Thank you, and I am proud to share with everyone Reverend Evan Gray, Senior Pastor at the Macedonia Baptist Church of Auburn. Reverend Gray is a native of the Rockaways and has been the pastor of Macedonia Baptist Church for the past 30 years. I'm proud to have known Pastor Gray for well over a decade. He is a community leader, a spiritual guide for not only myself, but for many of the residents of my district. And he is committed to helping create a more equitable New York. He believes deeply in the idea that every single New Yorker is worthy of the city's compassion and investment. I'm so glad to see him here today, and on behalf of my constituents in the 31st Council District, I thank him for his years of service to the Far Rockaway community. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to have the adoption of the minutes, also by Councilmember Brooks Powers.
I make a motion that we adopt the minutes of the stated meeting for April 27th.
Be adopted as printed. We'll now have messages and papers from the mayor.
Pre-considered M's 155 and 156, mayoral home rules.
State and federal legislation.
Communication from city, county, and borough offices.
M157, discount rate.
Finance.
Petitions and communications.
None.
Land use call-ups.
None.
Thank you. We're now going to, before we hear from Speaker Adrian Adams, I just wanted to do a quick welcome to, everybody knows it's our annual Foster Youth Shadow Day event, one of the great days here at the City Council, where we have lots of young people to come and ask questions and experience a day in the life of the New York City Council member. I think 27 or more members are hosting a Foster Youth today. We want to welcome them all here today. Let's give them a big welcome. Thank you, and thanks to everyone who's hosting a youth here today as well. And with that, we'll hear communication from Speaker Adrian Adams.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin by honoring our former council colleague and state senator, Bill Perkins, who passed away last week on May 16th. A native son of Harlem, Bill served his community for decades as a dedicated and hardworking public servant. He fought tirelessly to improve the health of our communities. He took up the fight against lead poisoning, advocated for more equitable education funding for our scholars, fair wages for workers, and equal rights for all New Yorkers. In 1989, he was one of the first leaders to question the efforts to accuse, charge, and later convict those who would come to be known as the Central Park Five, and now the Exonerated Five. I had the honor of serving with Bill when we arrived in the, I had the honor of serving with Bill when we arrived in the council together last term. As his life and legacy are celebrated at his funeral today, my thoughts are with his family, loved ones, and the entire Harlem community that he loves so deeply. May he rest in peace. Our entire city is heartbroken by the tragic loss of one-year-old Jason Eli from the deadly fire that occurred in my district 2 weeks ago. His family also attends my church, the Greater Allen AME Cathedral. We also mourn the loss of 67-year-old Janice Ross, who perished in a fire in Councilmember Mealy's district. My thoughts are with Janice and Jason's families. They were both taken from us too soon. Week after week, we see dangerous and fatal fires that devastate our communities. Our city must continue to prioritize expanding fire safety measures that can prevent fires and keep people safe. Earlier this month, our city lost 31-year-old Kevin Rawlings, a software engineer in Councilmember Vouchers district. Our thoughts are with his family during this difficult time. Yesterday marked the end. Oh, I don't want to go without saying this. It was announced yesterday that we lost the queen of rock and roll, the legendary Tina Turner, at the age of 83. I did not want to miss lifting her up for all of her talent. She went from one end of the spectrum in poverty in Tennessee to an amazing, amazing legendary icon. We lift her up. Her music and her memory will never be forgotten. Yes, simply the best. Yesterday marked the end of our executive budget hearings. I want to thank council members and staff for their hard work throughout this budget process thus far, and a special thanks to our finance chair, Justin Brannon, who, yes, is still here, for his leadership. And of course, we want to thank our finance division for their commitment throughout these weeks of hearings. We thank you so much, finance staff. To members of the public, we thank you who offer testimony. We thank you for your engagement. This week, the council unveiled our fiscal year 2024 executive budget, economic, and tax forecast. With the city's economy proving more resilient and driving stronger than expected tax collections, the council now forecasts $1.8 billion more in revenues for fiscal years 2023 and 2024, and greater revenues in the out years than is projected by OMB in the executive budget. These economic forecasts show the council of the city is well positioned to invest in essential services while preparing for future risks, even as the executive budget falls short of funding the critical services relied on by New Yorkers. While the administration continues to justify budget cuts as a result of the costs associated with supporting asylum seekers, the reality is that many investments missing from the budget would be solutions to the current challenges facing our city. The administration has said everything is on the table, yet it has disregarded solutions that can help New Yorkers avoid entering or transition out of the shelter system. Its response has relied on solely expanding emergency shelters, which are inherently expensive, without focusing enough on alleviating pressure on our shelter system. Yet we know there are many other solutions to our challenges that are achievable through the city budget. For example, the executive budget maintained a budget cut of over $30 million to NYCHA's Vacant Unit Readiness Program, which has seen the amount of time it takes to repair vacant units reach approximately 9 months. NYCHA's data shows that due to these delays, the number of vacant apartments grew from 490 to 6,583 vacant units over the last 16 months. Now is not the time to institute these cuts. Instead, we should empower the program to rehabilitate vacant apartments under the city's control. We also must invest adequate resources into the affordable housing capital budget, our CityFHEPS housing vouchers, and supportive housing. We cannot underfund and understaff the very agencies that connect New Yorkers with the essential services they need. The health, safety, and well-being of our city, communities, and economy are all bound to how well the budget invests in essential services. I'd like to extend my congratulations to the union resident physicians at Elmhurst Hospital, where I was born, who came to a tentative agreement with Mount Sinai for pay parity. These frontline healthcare workers put their lives on the line to steer us through the most difficult days of the pandemic, and I'm so pleased to hear that they will finally receive fair pay for their work. Today, as was mentioned by our majority leader, is Foster Youth Shadow Day. The goal of Shadow Day is to give our foster youth the opportunity to learn about the City Council, become more civically engaged, and be introduced to new career pathways. I want to thank Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala and our council staff for your work to set up this important day. We welcome you again, youth, to the People's House. This is your house. Tomorrow, the council will be announcing the official results and winning proposals of this year's participatory budgeting cycle. Participatory budgeting fosters civic engagement and empowers our city's residents to have a stronger voice in their neighborhood priorities. More than 60,000 people voted during this cycle, which is the council's first since the start of the pandemic. I want to take a moment to thank every council office that took part in PB this year, our staff who worked hard to make it happen, and every New Yorker who took the time to learn about and vote on their favorite projects. Congratulations on a successful participatory budgeting cycle. Here's to the next one. Today marks the start of the Jewish holiday, Shavuot, or Feast of the Weeks. As our Jewish communities gather with families and friends at synagogues to enjoy shared meals and light holiday candles, I wish everyone who's observing a safe and happy holiday. Chag Sameach, Eric Dinowitz. He always tells me my accent is good. May 28th is Pentecost, a day when Christians commemorate the descent of the Holy Spirit upon the apostles and other followers of Jesus Christ. I wish all who celebrate a holy and reflective holiday. Tomorrow is Guyana's Independence Day. I am proud that my district, the Great 28, is home to a vibrant Guyanese community. And if you all haven't been to Little Guyana in my district, I encourage you to visit, try some of our local cuisine, and celebrate Guyana's Independence Day. This week is National EMS Week, where we celebrate our frontline emergency response workers and the important work they do to keep us healthy and safe. My daughter, Aliyah, proudly serves our city as an FDI paramedic, and I want to personally thank all of our EMS workers for their dedication to our communities. Emergency medical service professionals still lack the fair and equitable pay they deserve. As a council, we're committed to advocating for pay parity for these critical first responders and all municipal and human service workers. May 28th is Menstrual Hygiene Day, during which we raise public awareness about the challenges to accessing menstrual products and period-friendly facilities to end the stigma around menstruation. I'm proud of the progress that our city has made to make menstrual hygiene products more accessible to New Yorkers, but there is more work to be done on all levels of government. On Monday, we will observe Memorial Day to honor and commemorate service members who paid the ultimate sacrifice and service to our country. Our city is so grateful for their commitment, dedication, and sacrifice. My own father and husband both served in the Air Force, so Memorial Day is very important to me and my own family. I hope everyone has a reflective and meaningful Memorial Day. As we approach the month of June, there are several other holidays I want to recognize. June is Black Music Appreciation Month, where we honor the deep and widespread contributions of Black musicians. Whether it's gospel music, jazz, soul, house, or hip hop, Black musicians have created entire cultures and industries celebrated throughout the world. Happy Black Music Appreciation Month. June is also Caribbean American Heritage Month, when we celebrate our Caribbean American communities for their cultural, social, and political contributions to our city and country. We have so many groundbreaking Caribbean American leaders here in New York City. Thank you for all that you do. This month, we are observing Gun Violence Awareness Month to acknowledge the crisis of gun violence in our city and across the country. As a council, we are committed to making our city safe and bringing an end to gun violence. And as we know, June is LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. We celebrate Pride to ensure that LGBTQIA+ New Yorkers are seen, heard, and supported, which is especially critical now when trans rights are under attack across the country. As a council, we're committed to uplifting our LGBTQIA+ New Yorkers, and I wish everyone a happy Pride. I want to acknowledge the middle school basketball team from MS 127 in Councilmember Farias' district who have joined us in the chambers today. Please join me in congratulating them on winning the Bronx-wide championship. Woohoo! Oh, I said this already, but I'm going to say it again. because it's actually written and I didn't say the word. Finally, and again, I'm going to take a moment to honor the life and legacy of Tina Turner. The queen of rock and roll broke so many barriers in her trailblazing career. She told the story of resilience in ways no one else could and used the struggles of her life to create music that reverberated in your soul. Her work has inspired me and countless people around the world to fight for a better future. Tina will live on as an American icon. May she rest in peace. And now we're going to move on to our stated agenda. First, we'll vote on the following appointments to the Taxi and Limousine Commission, or TLC: Kenneth Y.K. Chan, Paul Bader, Thomas Sorrentino, and Sarah Kaufman. Next, we'll vote on the following finance item: a revenue budget modification which recognizes $2.25 billion of new revenues in fiscal year 2023 and a $4 million reduction in prior year payable liabilities. Next, we'll vote on the following land use items. 141-05, 109th Avenue Rezoning will facilitate a new 4-story mixed-use building with approximately 56 housing units, 14 of which will be permanently affordable in my district. The council is modifying the application to strike MIH option 2 and add the deep affordability option. 26-50 Brooklyn Queens Expressway, West Rezoning, will facilitate the expansion of BQE Fitness to increase its square footage and approximately 111 accessory off-street parking spaces in Councilmember Caban's district. 61 to increase its square footage and approximately 111 accessory off-street parking spaces in Councilmember Caban's district. 61-10 Queens Boulevard Rezoning will facilitate the expansion of Planet Fitness to increase its square footage within the existing building in Councilmember 1's district. Paperific Rezoning will facilitate development of a 5 to establish speed limits. Too many New Yorkers have been lost to speeding and traffic violence, and it's important that we take action to help save lives. I want to thank Councilmember Jennifer Gutierrez for her leadership and our Transportation and Infrastructure Chair, Sylvina Brooks Poward, for her strong support of Sammy's Law. Resolution 550, sponsored by eligible organizations would include schools, libraries, other public or private educational institutions and organizations serving people with disabilities, seniors, and low-income New Yorkers. Additionally, this bill would require an annual report on the equipment donations. Introduction 665A would require the Department for the Aging, or DFTA, and the Office of Technology and Innovation, OTI, to design and implement a digital literacy program for older adults. The program would teach older adults how to navigate online learning platforms and social media, how to access telehealth services, how to apply for benefits online, and how to identify online fraud or scams. Additionally, the bill would require a report to the council when any changes or updates to the program are made. Thank you to our staff members, Irene Bayovsky, Charles Kim, Florentine Cabor, Connor Mealy, Mark Chen, Christopher Pepe, Brad Reed, and Audrey Sun. Finally, we will vote on a critical package of bills that help New Yorkers avoid or move out of the city shelter system by reforming our rental assistance voucher programs, CityFHEPS. Our city is facing an unprecedented number of people experiencing homelessness, including over 80,000 people in our shelter system, of which over 50,000 are longtime New Yorkers. Families with children stay in shelter for over a year, and adult families over 2 years. With the rise in asylum seekers, shelter space has become scarce, resulting in the city placing people in emergency shelters that are far more expensive and in places that often do not meet basic living standards. Though the impact of caring for people seeking asylum has been considerable, we cannot blame them for our city's issues. There was a homeless crisis in New York City before the arrival of people seeking asylum. The administration has not focused enough on solutions to move New Yorkers out of shelters and into permanent housing. CityFHEPS vouchers can be powerful tools to help us, but the city's arcane policies in administering them are counterproductive. Why deny access to a housing voucher that can help secure permanent housing? This is a solution to help reduce homelessness, stabilize communities, free up space for asylum seekers and others, all while saving money on costly emergency shelters that skew far more expensive than traditional shelter models while offering fewer services. An analysis by Wynn, housing a family in an emergency hotel shelter for 1 year, costs costs over $139,000. This 1 year cost is more expensive than housing a family for 5 years in a 2-bedroom apartment with a CityFHEPS voucher. The choice is clear from the perspective of what helps New Yorkers and our communities and what is cost effective. These are the types of solutions our city must pursue. Today's legislation will not only help New Yorkers move out of shelters, but also prevent the evictions of New Yorkers most at risk of homelessness and of entering our shelter system. The costs of shelter go beyond the price of beds and buildings. We must also account for the costs of health, mental health, education, and other services for our affected neighbors. These bills are critical to the success of our city. To maximize the impact of these policies, we must also address the source of income discrimination that blocks New Yorkers' access to housing. This requires the unit at the Commission of Human Rights be fully staffed and to ensure that landlords are held accountable for refusing vouchers. Finally, we must increase housing supply throughout the city because housing is the key to stability and the solution to homelessness. The following package of bills is essential to address homelessness among New Yorkers and the pressures facing our city's shelter system. Before I call up the bill sponsors, I want to say how incredibly proud I am of the work of the council members who've led the efforts on this legislation and our incredible staff that worked on them. Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala is this body's leading voice on issues related to homelessness and general welfare as the committee chair. She knows the city's shelter system from her own personal experiences and carries such clarity on the challenges and issues facing New Yorkers with these experiences. Her selfless leadership for unhoused New Yorkers and our obligation as a city to help them is unrivaled, and Diana is always someone that I lean on. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We do. I am also so very proud of the leadership of our Housing and Buildings Chair, Pirina Sanchez. She's shown her leadership on these bills and more broadly on the issues of affordable housing. Her laser focus on issues of affordability in our housing efforts keeps attention where it needs to be, on New Yorkers facing the greatest challenges. And Councilmember Tiffany Caban's incisive legislating led to a bill targeting an issue that leads vouchers to be devalued and more difficult to use. These bills represent what a legislature can do to solve pressing issues and all too common problems with government policies that tend to undermine services for low-income people in our city and in our country. I also want to thank all of the organizations who've been fighting for these solutions and specifically for these bills in coalition. Care for the Homeless, Citizens Committee for Children, Community Service Society, Homeless Services United, the Homes Can't Wait campaign, Legal Aid Society, Make the Road New York, Neighbors Together, New Destiny Housing, Open Hearts Initiative, Urban Justice Center, Urban Pathways, Vocal New York, and WIN, along with its leader and one of my predecessors, former Speaker Christine Quinn, who has joined us in the chambers today. We hear the applause. These advocates and homeless service providers, as well as their clients and members, have brought the voices of New Yorkers directly affected by homelessness and housing instability into the legislative process. They have been vital partners to this council and this city, and their commitment to uplifting our neighbors who need government to act on their behalf has been invaluable. And now on to the bills. Introduction 893A, co-sponsored or sponsored by Councilmember Pirina Sanchez, would help ensure residents that are housed but face eviction who do not currently qualify eligibility for CityFHEPS rental assistance vouchers. Specifically, the bill would disallow DSS from using the preservation of a rent-controlled apartment, receipt of adult protective services or community guardianship, and lack of previous shelter residence as criteria to deny eligibility for CityFHEPS. The bill would also provide households with the opportunity to demonstrate risk of eviction with a rent demand letter as a means to meet the eligibility for CityFHEPS. This bill would take effect 180 days after it becomes law. Introduction 894A, also sponsored by Councilmember Sanchez, would remove the current requirement that an individual or family demonstrate that they are employed to become eligible for a CityFHEPS rental assistance voucher. The bill would also change the maximum total gross income for CityFHEPS vouchers from 200% of the federal poverty level to 50% of the area median income to better align with economic needs in the city. The bill would take effect 180 days after it becomes law. Next, Introduction 229A, sponsored by Councilmember Tiffany Caban, would prohibit DSS from deducting a utility allowance from the maximum amount of a CityFHEPS voucher. This bill would also provide that if a tenant's public assistance shelter allowance is reduced by renting an apartment that is less than the maximum monthly rent, DSS will issue a check to the tenant in the amount of the reduction. Finally, Introduction 878A, sponsored by Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala, would prohibit DSS from requiring an individual or family to reside in a shelter 90 days before becoming eligible for a CityFHEPS rental assistance voucher. Removing a shelter stay as a precondition to voucher assistance streamline access to vouchers for those in the shelter system who would otherwise be eligible and works to prevent individuals from entering the shelter system in the first place. This would reduce the number of people in the shelter system and lengths of stay and costs of being in the shelter while improving child and family well-being. I thank our staff members, Aminta Kilawan, David Romero, Sarah Liss, Nicholas Connell, and Shmita Deshmukh. Now, I thank you so much for your attention. I'd like to turn it back over to our majority leader.
Thank you. We got to give you a breather after that.
Thank you.
We're going to now move into the report of special committees. Oh, no, sorry. I'm sorry. We're going to now move into discussion of general orders, and we'll first hear from Councilmember Caban.
Thank you. A comfortable, reliable home is the essential pillar of a dignified life and a key foundation of true public safety, not to mention public health. And New Yorkers without one are almost by definition not safe, not healthy, and not being shown the respect they are entitled to as human beings whose lives inherently matter. And I wish I could say our shelter system was good enough, but for too many reasons to go into right now, it categorically is not. It should be a high priority of ours to move New Yorkers out of the shelter system and into permanent housing as rapidly and efficiently as possible. And one obstacle to that goal is the fact that with rent on its current skyrocketing trajectory, vouchers often don't enable our neighbors to afford an apartment, and there's a piece of red tape we currently have on the books that compounds this problem. A rule that allows landlords to deduct utility costs from the value of the voucher rather than letting the entire voucher go towards rent. I'm very proud to be the lead sponsor for Intro 229, which will remove this piece of red tape, eliminating that obstacle, preventing our neighbors from experiencing homelessness from moving into permanent housing they need and deserve. And I'm also proud that it's part of a package alongside Councilmember Sanchez and Deputy Speaker Ayala's bills. These measures will help families avoid entering the shelter system and move out of it quickly, making our city safer and healthier for all. These 4 bills, taken together, constitute an important step toward a city where the purpose of the housing system is guaranteeing all New Yorkers housing, not maximizing profits for corporate landlords and billionaire developers in the interest of safety, health, and dignity. I just want to urge my colleagues to vote aye on all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Councilmember Rivera, followed by Councilmember Stevens.
Thank you so much. I also want to congratulate all of my colleagues for their work on the housing bill. It is truly inspiring to see us use our legislative action to do the right thing by New Yorkers who have been here long-term and who are new to the city, find good and just housing. With that, I just want to speak briefly on my bill, Intro 590, to revive and make permanent the open culture program that was critical to the survival of so many arts and culture organizations across the city. It also allowed neighbors, families, and friends to come together in a safe way and made our communities more enjoyable and lively during a very harrowing time. The Open Culture Program will provide an affordable way for eligible arts and culture institutions to obtain permits to use roadways for events. This permit will have a $25 application fee and will otherwise be free, helping expand equity and access to the arts and providing a low-barrier way to bring performances and creations outside of buildings and into communities. The arts and entertainment sectors were hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic and are arguably our city's greatest economic driver. People come to New York for the arts. They come to our neighborhoods, our restaurants, our small businesses for the arts. Open Streets and Open Culture enable some of our beloved arts venues and organizations to welcome New Yorkers and visitors to seek solace and enjoyment in performances that make this city and our neighborhoods so much more wonderful. I want to thank the entire committee staff for their work. I look forward to passing this. I want to thank Councilmember Osei for his co-sponsorship, my colleagues for their support, and to everyone. I remember my first concert. It was outdoors. It was a salsa concert. It really changed the way that I looked art and culture and my entire perspective on the world, and I think that's what's so important to our collective healing and, of course, our identity as New York City. And again, congratulations to all of my colleagues for some incredible legislation today. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Councilmember Stevens, followed by Councilmember Sanchez.
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be passing Intro 686 today. New York City is currently faced with a workforce crisis. It is our job to develop solutions that will foster a thriving city workforce. Today, New York City is currently faced with a workforce crisis. It is our job to develop solutions that will foster a thriving city workforce while exposing our young people to amazing experiences. SYP provides experiences for young people to gain real life and develop important skills such as communication, time management, problem solving, and so much more. The skills that they acquire are vital for the future success of our workforce and overall well-being. Addressing this as a citywide partnership is a crucial stepping stone towards reimagining our city workforce. Our collective efforts, this will help our city agencies and act as a crucial pipeline to address the employment challenges experienced by our city agencies. I would like to thank my co-prime sponsor, Julie Minner, who worked tirelessly with me on this administration, Speaker Adams, for supporting this, and I encourage all my colleagues today to vote yes on Intro 686. And thank you to all of my colleagues for their courage in leading on their housing bills, and housing is a human right.
Thank you. Now you're from Councilmember Sanchez, followed by Councilmember Feliz.
Thank you, Majority Leader, and thank you to all my colleagues. In my district, we know the heartbreaking consequences of the housing and homelessness crisis firsthand. In Bronx Community District 5, 1 in 10 households faced eviction last year. This means children forced to commute sometimes 90 minutes, 2 hours from a shelter in Queens to their school on Tremont Avenue in the Bronx, severing vital social bonds and support networks for them and for their families. The resulting stress at the household and community level permeates not just through my, but through all communities, manifesting in food insecurity, poor health outcomes, and even violence. As if these pre-existing realities were not enough, as we welcome more New Yorkers, there's even more pressure to improve the efficiency of our existing systems to provide relief. This is why I'm urging my colleagues today to support the CityFHEPS voucher expansion bills, because let's be clear, increasing access to permanent housing is not only the morally correct thing to do, stabilizing families, but it's also the fiscally prudent course of action in confronting a housing and homelessness crisis. Per the mayor's own housing blueprint, it costs almost $9,000 per month to house a family of 2 in the shelter system last year. A CityFHEPS voucher for the same family would cost a maximum of $2,300 and potentially much less. Permanent housing costs less than shelter. Together, this package will reduce the number of households entering the system and will move folks faster when they do. Thank you to the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker for your incredible, amazing, feminine woman leadership, and to all of the advocates, Vocal New York, Legal Aid Society, Homeless Services United, Make the Road, WIN, the CSS, so many others. Thank you. Housing is a human right.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Councilmember Feliz, followed by Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Students with IEPs, individualized education programs, face many challenges due to reasons beyond their control. Some of these challenges include heat sensitivities. One thing we cannot allow is for their heat sensitivities to be worsened even before their school day starts, because their school buses do not have air conditioning. My bill, Intro 556, will help resolve this problem, a problem that has existed for a very long time, by requiring that all school buses that serve students with IEPs have something as simple as air conditioning. I encourage you all to vote yes, Intro 556, and I want to thank all my colleagues that worked together on this bill, including our Education Chair, Rita Joseph. Thank you so much for all the work on this bill. Also want to congratulate all the colleagues working on the very important CityFHEPS package, including Deputy Speaker Ayala, Councilmember Sanchez, Councilmember Caban. We need to resolve this housing crisis. We need to get people into stable housing. And we need these packages. This package will help get that done. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we hear from Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I'm really excited to move 2 pieces of legislation forward in partnership with Speaker Adams today. Intro 665 mandates that DFTA and OTI provide digital literacy classes in every community board in our libraries, our senior centers. Intro 664 redirects unused digital equipment from becoming e-waste to instead having a second life with nonprofits. With these bills, we are sending a clear message that access should not be a privilege, but a right for all. And every New Yorker should be able to thrive in the digital age, regardless of their background or circumstances. These 2 bills may appear modest in scope, but their potential to transform lives and bridge the digital divide is significant. Additionally, I'm really proud to have played a supporting role in helping bring the home rule related to Sammy's Law to a vote today. Sammy's Law is the first step towards ensuring that New York City has the ability to make decisions for the streets that we fund, maintain, and support. The fact that currently only Albany is empowered to make decisions about the speeds on our streets benefits no one. Our city's infrastructure is unique, our communities are diverse, and we have the necessary insight into our community's safety needs. I want to thank all of the sponsors that signed on to my resolution, specifically Council Members Ressler and Hanif, who were integral in getting the sponsors on, and of course the leadership of our Transportation Chair, Council Member Sylvina Brooks Powers. And I quickly just want to shout out Sammy's mom, Amy, and grandmother Joan, who are here with us today. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's not seeing anyone else signed up at this time for general orders. We will Now move to the report of special committees.
None.
Reports of standing committees.
Report of the Committee on Cultural Affairs, Libraries, and International Intergroup Relations, Intro 590A, Open Culture Program.
Amended and coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on Education, Intro 566A, Air-Conditioned Buses for Disabled Children.
Amended and coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on Finance, M154 and Reso 648, Budget Modification.
Coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on General Welfare, Intros 229A, 878A, 893A, and 894A, Rental Assistance Vouchers.
Amended and coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on Land Use, LU 207 and Reso 649, and LU 208 and Reso 650, various rezonings.
Coupled on general orders.
LUs 209 and 210, 14105, 109th Avenue Rezoning.
Approved with modifications and referred to the City Planning Commission pursuant to Section 197D of the New York City Charter.
Preconsidered LU 211, Reso 651, 784 Cortlandt Avenue Project Revision.
Coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on Rules, Privilege, and Elections, M149 and Reso 652, approving the appointment of Kenneth Y.K. Chan, TLC.
Coupled on general orders.
M150 and Reso 653, approving the appointment of Paul Bader, TLC.
Coupled on general orders.
M151 and Reso 654, approving the appointment of Thomas Sorrentino, TLC.
Coupled on general orders.
M152 and Reso 655, approving the appointment of Sarah Kaufman, TLC.
Coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on Small Business, Intro 686A, Summer Youth Employment.
Amended and coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on State and Federal Legislation, Preconsidered M155 through Preconsidered SLR 14 on page 12, various home rule messages.
Coupled on general orders.
Report of the Committee on Technology, Intro 664A, Surplus City-Owned Computers.
Amended and coupled on general orders.
Intro 665A, Digital Literacy Program.
Amended and coupled on general orders.
General Orders Calendar, LU 189 and Reso 656 through LU 191 and Reso 658, Paperific Rezoning.
Coupled on general orders.
LU 209 and Reso 659 and LU 210 and Reso 660, 14105, 109th Avenue Rezoning.
Coupled on general orders.
Resolution appointing various persons, Commissioner of Deeds.
Coupled on general orders, I now ask that the clerk take a roll call vote on all of the items on today's general orders calendar.
Dinowitz.
Aye on all.
Marte.
Aye on all.
Yeager.
Aye on all with the exception of intros 590, 878, 893, 894, 229, and M155. Thank you.
Brooks Powers.
Permission to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
I am glad to see the council pass a home rule message in support of Sammy's Law today, which will give the city more authority over the speed limits of our own streets. A record number of children were killed in traffic last year, many in long-neglected outer boroughs and communities of color. Lowering speed limits paired with traffic calming measures and infrastructure improvements can help improve safety. I note that reductions to speed limits alone are not enough to keep all our roads safe. And if the state passes this law, I look forward to leading a robust discussion in the Council's Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, one that prioritizes infrastructure investments as we evaluate where speeds can and should be lowered. With that, I vote aye on all.
Osei.
I vote aye on all.
Abreu.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Today is a historic day for this council. CityFHEPS has long been one of the city's greatest tools for keeping New Yorkers housed. And today is going to get even greater. I know what it's like to get evicted from your home. That's what I lived through as a child, and it took a huge toll on me and my family. Unless you lived through it, it's hard to understand what it feels like to have your life completely destabilized. Not knowing where you're going to sleep, where you're going to school, whether you can still make the commute to your job. I became a tenant attorney to protect people's rights. But what we're doing today is even better. We're actually expanding those rights that I've dedicated my life to fighting for. We are no longer going to wait until a family is utterly destitute to offer an ounce of mercy. We're going to do something revolutionary. Help people before their lives fall apart. The package of housing bills we're voting on today reflect remarkable leadership from Deputy Speaker Ayala, Councilmember Sanchez, Caban, and Speaker Adams. This is a once-in-a-generation change in how we think about housing, and the payoff will be a future not only with better housing protections, but with less crime, fewer struggles with mental health, greater educational attainment, and other social advances that only come once we've met the basic need for housing. Thank you. I vote aye on all.
Ariola.
Aye on all, with the exception of intros 229A, 878A, 893A, 894A, and Home Rule M 0155, for which I am a no.
Aviles.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
Aye on all with the exception of M151 with accompanying resolution 654. For which I vote no. And because this is the candidate that came from the Brooklyn delegation, I just want to reaffirm to my colleagues that we should and must assure that the city's commissions and advisory boards must include people with direct experience in the issue or area of focus and directly impacted people. We must stop enabling the use of these bodies for political favor, but activate them to truly work for New Yorkers, that they include directly impacted people and people with real experience in the sectors. I want to thank my colleagues for supporting Sammy's law and send my love and appreciation to Sammy's family and Families for Safe Streets, and congratulations to my colleagues on their housing package.
Ayala.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I won't belabor this because I've been speaking about this. I believe that everybody's pretty clear on my thoughts on the issue, but I just really wanted to shout out the advocates who are on the balcony and those who are watching from home, who have worked tirelessly to get us to this point today. And I want to thank my colleagues who believe that this package is, one of the tools that we can use to better the lives of so many New Yorkers who really rely on us to do our job to get them out of circumstances that they are not able to get themselves out of. With that, I vote aye on all.
If you get, I know we're gonna have a lot of speeches. You guys can hold your applause. You can put your hands up or something if you want to indicate your support. Thanks.
Barron.
Is that me? Oh, I'm not used to them wanting me to speak, so that when you said my name, I didn't realize you were talking about me. But may I be excused to explain my vote?
You may be excused to.
I want to vote. I want to abstain from 149, 150, and 152, and vote no on 151. On the speed limits, this was a tough one for me. I don't want this to be abused, and in our communities, then we have a bunch of tickets because the speed limit is so slow that they pile up with tickets. But since this bill is basically giving us the authority and not yet setting a time for the speed limit to be dealt with, I want to encourage us not to allow this bill to have such a slow speed limit that we have an increase of tickets in our communities, because we already abused with those kinds of fines and summons. So I am voting yes on that with the stipulation that we do not abuse it when it comes to the speed limit. And then I'm voting no on LU 209, 210, Reso 259, 659, 660. I think the affordability needs to be a little deeper. I don't want to be consistent. And then finally, shame on you, Mayor. I'm glad this council is sticking up to the mayor, not allow him to warehouse the homeless and keep them in homeless shelters with no permanent plan for housing, with no workforce development for jobs, with no mental health services, just warehousing. Well, today the council said, no, we have to take care of our homeless, and when we pass more projects, let's increase affordability and set-asides for the homeless. Congratulations to my colleagues who worked hard on this.
Butcher.
Aye on all.
Brennan.
Aye on all.
Brewer.
Aye on all, particularly on the getting rid of the 90-day rule, and also I also thank Joan Dean and her family. Thank you.
Caban.
Aye on all with the exception of M151, on which I vote no.
Carr.
I'll be voting no on introductions 229A, 878A, 893A, 894A, and M. I'll be voting no on introductions 229A, 878A, 893A, 894A, and M155, and aye on the rest. Thank you.
De La Rosa.
I want to vote aye on all and congratulate the speaker and our colleagues for their courageous leadership.
Farias.
I vote aye on all, and I'm excited and proud too, and congratulate all my colleagues.
Feliz.
Aye on all.
Of M151 with the accompanying resolution 654. I just want to thank the speaker and my awesome colleagues who are pushing back and creating real housing opportunities, and just give a shout out to all of the advocates, Families for Safe Streets, and Transportation Alternatives who got us here. So thank y'all.
Hanif.
Permission to explain my vote?
Oh, go ahead. Excuse me.
I want to thank Deputy Speaker Ayala, Councilmember Sanchez, Caban for their work on this critical CityFHEPS legislative package. I also want to extend gratitude to Speaker Adams for her unwavering commitment to transitioning people out of shelter into permanent housing. This is the dignified and solution-oriented path forward to addressing the shortage of shelter beds. I'm proud to be part of a council that is demonstrating real leadership, especially our newest neighbors. I vote aye on all with the exception of M151 and corresponding Reso 654, on which I vote no. On M151, I'm voting no to remain consistent with how I've participated in the Brooklyn delegation on this Taxi and Limousine Commission appointment. I will continue to work with my colleagues towards ensuring there's current driver representation on the TLC soon. We need impacted working people for policies that look out for working families. Thank you.
Hanks.
I vote aye on all with the exception of M155, 155, for which I vote no.
Thank you. Holden.
Aye on all except intros 229A, 878A, 893A, and 894A, and M155, which I vote no.
Thank you. Hudson.
I'm an aye on all with the exception of M149, for which I abstain, and permission to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to congratulate my colleagues and the speaker for pushing forward and standing strong in the face of opposition and pressure to pass the CityFHEPS package, which is not only an important package in and of itself, but especially at this time during a housing crisis, a migrant crisis, and everything that the city is facing. It's taken a lot of courage to pass that package, and so I just want to congratulate my colleagues. And I'm proud to also vote in favor of that package as well as Sammy's Law. Thank you.
Joseph.
Aye on all.
Kagan.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, bills regarding housing vouchers for potentially homeless individuals are so overbroad that they will end up hurting people who really need housing assistance and will create a huge speed limit in New York City to 20 miles per hour and even to 10 miles per hour. That will not decrease number of car incidents or prevent reckless driving, but instead will create more road congestion and will squeeze more money from responsible drivers. After all, reckless drivers don't care about any speed limits. We need to increase the number of traffic agents and to support enforcement of existing rules. So I'm voting no on interest 229A, 878A, 893A, 894A, and also no on Home Rule M0155, and aye on everything else.
Krishnan.
Aye on all, and just want to say thank you to the speaker and all our colleagues fighting on this issue. Housing is a human right, and I'm proud that we're sending that message today as a council.
Lee.
Permission to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
I will be voting aye on all with the exception of M155, which I will be abstaining on. And in terms of the CityFHEPS, we know that it is much more expensive to put families in shelters than to provide these vouchers. There are benefits that everyday New Yorkers will directly feel, for example, privacy and stability for some of our most vulnerable families, and more income for our city's smaller landlords. In order for these services to succeed and operate as efficiently as possible, we look forward to partnering with the administration on a number of issues. The long and complex application process, the staff shortage at DSS, lack of timely payments to shelter operators, and the lack of communication between shelters that forces families to hit reset, quote unquote, on their applications far too often. Our city is dealing with twin crises, homelessness and the influx of asylum seekers. Now more than ever, we need to be freeing up city resources and breaking down silos to answer that dire need. Thank you, and congrats to all my colleagues.
Lewis.
I vote aye on all, and congratulations to all bill sponsors and advocates.
Mealy. Menon.
Aye on all.
Moya. Narcisse.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
As a mother of four, Amy, thank you for calling me. Amy Cohen speak about her young son. Sammy is truly heart-wrenching when you hear the story. I'm in awe of your finding the strength and fortitude to help create positive change in our city. And I thank you, I applaud you. As a city legislator, our #1 priority is the safety of all New Yorkers. And I want to say thank you to all my colleagues fighting for a better equity that in our city in all aspects. And I want to continue to say that the traffic, when we talk about the traffic, the point is to eliminate traffic death. I implore my colleagues to continue our effort to improve the street infrastructure in low-income communities and communities of color. Street in many pockets of our city have for generations gone unexamined and untouched, leading to unfair outcomes and fatalities for residents in these areas. So once again, thank you for the leadership of my speaker, Adrienne Adams, for standing strong. Thank you for all my colleagues continue fighting to make sure New York City is a place where we can live, work, and enjoy. Thank you. And I vote aye, sorry.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Mealy. We'll come back, Councilmember. Nurse.
I vote aye on all except for M151 and Reso 654. And just want to echo the congratulations to everyone. I'm really proud to be a part of this body today. Thank you.
Palladino.
I vote aye on all except... Did you say Palladino?
Palladino.
What did he say? You ready? Okay. I vote aye on all except for intros 229A, 878A, 893A, 894A, Home Rule M0155, and I would also like to take a moment to recognize this weekend as the Memorial Day weekend. This is known as Memorial Day so that we could honor those who gave all in order for us to have our freedoms. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mealy.
Aye on all.
Thank you, Councilmember Mealy.
Aye on all.
Thank you. Ressler.
Permission to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Firstly, on M156, while I've been severely disappointed by the delays in implementation of the weigh-in motion sensors to impose fines on overweight trucks on the deteriorating BQE triple cantilever, I am pleased that this legislative fix is moving forward in Albany and that we were able to pass a home rule message today to facilitate it. And I want to just commend my friend and colleague, Councilmember Gutierrez, for her leadership on M155 to facilitate the passage of Sammy's Law up in Albany. This has been a long fight. This will save lives. This will reduce traffic violence in our communities, and it's an enormous victory. So thank you, Jen, for everything you've been doing. And then I am deeply proud to be a member of the City Council today. So I want to thank the Speaker for her leadership on the housing package. I want to thank Councilmember Caban for her tenacious advocacy on Intro 229 to limit utility costs for people in shelter, for people exiting shelter into housing. Councilmember Pirina Sanchez for her astute and sharp legislating, and especially Councilmember Diana Ayala for her moral leadership in making sure that this passage happened. We are going to have less people in shelter as a result of the work that we're doing today. I am deeply disappointed by the mayor's fear-mongering here. We need to remember that the eligibility to shelter for families does not change today with this package, and it is very, very hard for families to enter into our shelter system. Only 24% of families go to PATH to apply for shelter and are accepted on their first try. 30% of families go 4 or more times before they are ever accepted into shelter. When people finally make it into our shelter system, we should be working as hard as we can to get them out into housing, and that is what we are doing today. This package is going to make a difference. Thank you to each and every person and each and every advocate, especially former Speaker Christine Quinn and the folks at Vocal for helping to make this happen. Thank you.
Richardson Jordan.
I vote aye on all with the exception of M151 and accompanying Rezo 654, on which I vote no.
Thank you, Councilman. Riley.
I'll be abstaining on M155 and aye on the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Rivera.
Just want to thank all of the advocates, transit, housing, human services, all of you. Thank you for guiding us, and I probably vote aye on all.
Salamanca.
Aye on all.
Thank you. Sanchez.
Aye on all.
Schulman.
Aye on all, and I want to acknowledge my Forster Shadow Youth partner here today, Amal Karufi. Thank you.
Stevens.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
My district is one of the districts that is oversaturated with shelters. So I first see the devastation and impact the shelter system have on families and communities. I'm excited about the bold steps this council has taken to ensure that housing is for all New Yorkers. I'm committed to using my skills to work on solutions to ensure that this major undertaking is implemented and successful for all New Yorkers. Thank you to my colleagues, and thank you to all my colleagues who've already voted yes on Intro 686. This will continue to expand the experience of SYP participants, and aye on all, and I abstain on M155.
Thank you. Ong.
Aye on all with the exception of M155, which I abstain.
Thank you. Velasquez. Vernikov. Williams.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
While I am a strong advocate for traffic safety, I do not believe that giving the DOT the ability to reduce the speed is the only way to ensure the safety of our communities. Other solutions include investing in traffic infrastructure measures such as speed bumps, speed cushions, always stop, stop signs, roundabouts, pavement markings, and optical markings, to name a few. As many know, it takes DOT forever to put those in our community, and often they deny those. In reference to the package of bills that would impact the CityFHEPS program, while I wholeheartedly support the merits of all of the bills that seek to improve how we care for our unhoused families and those at risk of becoming unhoused, I am concerned about the inability of this administration to effectively implement this sweeping change by the effective date, considering current vacancies and existing backlogs. As the chair of the Committee on Civil and Human Rights, we have heard numerous reports about voucher discrimination. That said, I am also deeply concerned that the source of income unit at CCHR, which has come under much scrutiny from this council and advocates, will not have the capacity to properly address this long-standing discriminatory practice. I look forward to keeping a watchful eye through our oversight abilities to safeguard the proper implementation of these new laws. Congrats to all the bill sponsors and staff for their tireless work. It's an honor to be a part of such an audacious body of members. Lastly, congrats to our first Queens delegation nominee who received unanimous support, by the way, Paul Bader, on your appointment to the TLC Commission. And with that, I vote aye on all except for M155, in which I vote no.
Thank you. Juan.
Thank you so much to all of the advocates. Congratulations to my colleagues, and I vote aye on all.
Borelli.
Thank you. A quick acknowledgement of some of our staff, the finance staff, our central staff, and our sergeant-at-arms who were all here very late last night at the last budget hearing and all those hearings that came before it. With that, I'd like to vote no on intros 229, 878, 893, 894, and Home Rule M1 and Home Rule M1055, to which I agree with Councilmember Williams, and the rest I vote aye on. Thank you.
Thank you. Powers.
Just want to echo the minority leader's sentiment about the staff and thank them as well. With that, I vote aye.
Speaker Adams.
Thanking once again all of our advocates that made the passage of this critical legislation possible today, and once again wanting to uplift former Speaker Christine Quinn for her unwavering leadership and support of the work around this important legislation, and just want to thank her, all of our around this important legislation, and just
God. Is that it, Billy? Billy, that's it? Okay. Today's vote, all items on today's general order calendar are adopted by a vote of 48 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions, with the exception of intro 229A, 41 in favor, 7 against, 0 abstentions, introduction 590A, 47 in favor, 1 against, 0 abstentions, intro 878A, 41 in favor, 7 against, 0 abstentions. Intro 893A, 41 in favor, 7 against, 0 abstentions. Introduction 894A, adopted by a vote of 41 in favor, 7 against, 0 abstentions. M155, adopted by a vote of 35 in favor, 9 against, 4 abstentions. M151, Resolution 654, adopted by a vote of 40 in favor, 7 against, 1 abstention. M149 and Resolution 652, adopted by a vote of 46 in favor, 2 against, 0 abstentions. M150 and Resolution 653, adopted by a vote of 47 in favor, 0 against, 1 abstention. M152 and Resolution 655, adopted by a vote of 47 in favor, 0 against, 1 abstention. And land use items 209, 210, and accompanying resolutions, adopted by a vote of 47 in the affirmative, 1 against, 0 abstentions. We'll now move to the introduction and reading of bills.
All bills have been referred to committees as indicated on today's agenda.
Guys, can you... Thank you, guys. Congratulations, but please. All right, congratulations, folks. We'll now move into the discussion of resolutions. Do we have anyone signed up today for any resolutions? Seeing none, we'll now have a voice vote on today's resolution. If you wish to vote against or abstain from today's resolution, please notify the legislative document unit by email or by approaching the dais. I'll now read today's resolution into the record. Resolution 550 recognizes May as Lupus Awareness Month in the City of New York. Will all those in favor please say aye? All opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The ayes have it.
Hey!
Congratulations. We'll now move into general discussion. Shh, please. We will start with Councilman Ressler.
Thank you so much, Majority Leader. Today, I am proud to introduce Intro 1061 with the Majority Leader, with Councilmember Ung, and with Councilmember De La Rosa. We have nearly 25,000 vacant positions in city government. We do not have the staff to process food stamps. We do not have the staff to prevent evictions. We do not have the staff to build affordable housing. At every single one of our oversight budget hearings, we hear the same thing. Agencies are behind on doing their job because they don't have the people. It's time that we get the data in real time from every single mayoral agency on a 2-week basis. Staff hiring isn't keeping up with the people that are walking out the building. The retention data is just as bad. It's terrible. We need to have more clear data to bring real accountability, transparency to mayoral hiring and to make sure that we have the staff that we need to get things done. I believe that government can help solve problems. I'm not sure that the administration does, but let's help them hire up so that we can get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ressler. We'll now hear from Councilmember Kagan, followed by Councilmember Hanif.
Thank you. This week I met a delegation of Organization of New York City Public Service Retirees that included people who have worked for decades as firefighters, police officers, teachers, and other municipal retirees who served our city and deserve our support and respect. They are still hoping that New York City Council will help them to keep their affordable and accessible health care and will save their traditional Medicare instead of forcing them into Medicare Advantage program through Aetna. Retirees showed me letters from their doctors who refused to join Aetna network and talked about delays and prioritizations for their vital medical procedures. I urge all my colleagues from New York City Council to support 250,000 municipal retirees in their fight. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Councilmember Hanif, followed by Councilmember Barron.
Thank you. First, I've been a lupus warrior for 15 years now, and so designating May as Lupus Awareness Month means that people in our city will keep their eye out for this complicated disease and know that this city is rooted in care for all lupus survivors, that it won't leave us behind, and this is particularly important for women of color and Black women who are disproportionately affected. The mayor's court application to weaken the right to shelter mandate is an unconscionable attack on our city's most vulnerable residents. This mandate has stood for over 40 years and is the cornerstone of our city's social safety net. It must be upheld in its entirety. The language proposed by the mayor would allow the DHS shelter system to reject people, which could severely exacerbate street homelessness. While our city faces an unprecedented challenge brought on by a ballooning shelter system and a dramatic increase in arrivals, we must continue to lead with compassion. Denying anyone, whether born in Caracas or Brooklyn, the right to dignified housing is not how our city should respond. I want to applaud Speaker Adams and Deputy Speaker Ayala for their powerful response and urge my colleagues to follow their lead and stand as a united council in defense of the right to shelter mandate. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Councilmember Barron, followed by Councilmember Riley.
Thank you, my colleagues. I want to introduce you to a sister who passed, Carol Taylor. Carol Taylor was an awesome activist. She was powerful. She was the first so-called stewardess back then, airline attendant, the first Black airline attendant. But in the movement, every rally we had, she was there with her little black book. And her little black book gave instructions for young people on what they should and shouldn't do when they're approached by police. So she made her transition. I went to her funeral today. I went to Bill Perkins' funeral. My comrade in struggle when I first came into the city council, Speaker Miller assigned Bill Perkins to keep an eye on me. So they put my office on the 18th floor right next to his on the leadership floor. But what the speaker didn't know that we were both radicals, so we would keep an eye on each other, and we giving him heck. So, Bill, job well done. He did a great job on lead paint for our children, and he was one of the first to bring up the issues of rats. And he took the lead on rats in our community, and we also had private conversations on some human rats. And I'll let you know who they were if you come to my office. I have a list. But Bill, job well done. I also want to congratulate my staff, Joy Simmons and Karan Allen, for the work they did around the participatory budget. We were number 2 in Brooklyn in the voter turnout and number 4 in the city. So congratulations to my staff. Finally, May 25th is African Liberation Day. On that day, African states in the 60s were fighting armed struggle. They liberated themselves from imperialism and colonialism and fought for the revival of Africa. Africa is the basis of our liberation. All of us of African descent who are in the diaspora, it is the liberation of Africa that will determine our liberation wherever we were dispersed.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Councilmember Riley, followed by Councilmember Ferris.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I just want to highlight my foster student that's here, Edwin, that I had the opportunity to meet today. Starting 8 years ago, my name and my life changed. I was no longer just Kevin Riley. My new name became Dad, the highest honor and privilege that I will ever receive. While the first Father's Day was celebrated in 1910, it wasn't recognized as a national holiday until 1972 by President Nixon, marking the third Sunday of June, officially Father's Day. That 62 years in waiting is significantly symbolic to how far too often fathers go unrecognized and are not equally held to the same degree as pillars in parenthood. This is especially true when we speak about the idea of Black fatherhood and the falsity that Black dads are absent fathers, when in reality, Black fathers are leading the charge in advanced fatherhood empowerment and engagement. This is why today I am proud as a Black dad and a representative of the dads across New York City and the nation to introduce Reso 645, designating June as Fatherhood Recognition Month annually in the city of New York. This is vital to honoring the roles of fathers and recognizing the positive and profound impact involved fathers have in the lives of their children. Like mothers, fathers are invaluable to our society, and our city must continue to strengthen its support and resources to paternal programming and initiatives. I would like to take a moment to celebrate the advocates and the leaders who are laying the groundwork to provide a support system to fathers and families in the underserved communities. Thank you to DYCD's Father Initiative, Bronx Fathers Take Action, Real Dads Network, my organization, the Dad Gang, and all other organizations who continually answer the call to parent across New York City and beyond with services and enrichment to those in need. We have a responsibility to ensure our future leaders get all the resources they need to grow and thrive in this evolving world. Fathers are an underrated part of this development, and it is time we bring them into the conversation. I urge my council colleagues to join with me by signing on to Resolution 645. Thank you to Regina Paul, my legislative team, Simone Jones, Jason Fox, Cynthia Prisco, the legislative policy analysts, for their work on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move forward, I just want to correct a vote tally earlier. M151 and Resolution 654 were adopted by a vote of 41 in the affirmative, 7 against, and 0 abstentions. Apologies for that. We'll now go to Councilmember Farias, followed by Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you, Majority Leader. First and foremost, I'm excited to announce the best of the Bronx, the JV basketball team from MS 127, the Castle Hill Knights, not only won the Bronx-wide championship, but also they were runner-up in the citywide championship. I'm so proud of our Castle Hill Knights, who were here at City Hall today, where I presented them a proclamation, and I know our whole community is as well. As a former student athlete and an avid basketball fan, I know it is no easy feat to accomplish all that they have. I cannot wait to see all that they continue to achieve, and I cannot wait to wear my very own Castle Hill Knights jersey with pride. Additionally, we have some exciting legislation being introduced today in our menstrual equity bill package in anticipation of International Day of Menstruation on May 28th. Thank you to my fellow prime and co-prime sponsors on these, our Speaker Adrian Adams, Public Advocate Jumani Williams, and Council Members Sylvina Brooks Powers, Tiffany Caban, and Carmen de la Rosa. In New York City and in this body, we have an opportunity to lead the way in breaking down barriers and promoting equality when it comes to menstruation. Menstruation is a natural and normal part of life for millions of people, yet for far too many, it is accompanied by challenges, inequalities, and feelings of shame and embarrassment. Access to pads, tampons, and now menstrual cups is not a luxury, it is a necessity. This legislative package is building off of the amazing work our previous New York City Council women members in 2016 accomplished and is creating a more inclusive approach to our city. With the 5 bills included in this package and more to come, we are ensuring that comprehensive menstrual health education is integrated into our school curricula, that young people are empowered with knowledge and confidence, that the Department of Education and Department of Correction report on its distribution of menstrual products to ensure accountability, and that sustainable period products like menstrual cups are included and promoted by our city in all the areas, including our shelters. As legislators in Florida, Idaho, and more across the nation continue to legislate against menstrual equity, I urge all my colleagues, regardless of whether you menstruate or not, to sign on to these 5 critically important bills. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Councilmember Brewer, followed by Councilmember Vilas, followed by Councilmember Joseph.
Thank you. A couple of things. First of all, I too went to Councilmember Bill Perkins' funeral. We served together in the council, and it was a beautiful ceremony representing his life. He will be missed. Number 2, 1052 introduction for today, and it has to do with schoolyards to be open to the public. We know that under the Bloomberg administration, there was an effort to open up schoolyards that were not within 10 minutes of a park. Unfortunately, many of them never did open, so the 1,000 that were expected, something like 200 or 300 only, are open to the public weekends and times when school is not in session. So you walk by literally hundreds of playgrounds that are closed to the public and could be open for all of us that need to be exercising and participating with family on activities. So I would like to have a good study of this issue. I hope that in the end, between the custodians, the Department of Education, the Department of Parks, and maybe Trust for Public Land, many more could be open on a regular basis. I hope that this effort would expand the opportunity for people to have something local that is, in a sense, green in their neighborhood. Number 2, I just want to add that Memorial Day on the Upper West Side is at Soldiers and Sailors Monument at 10 o'clock. It's an annual event that brings people together, and we look forward to having anybody who wants to join us at the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Councilmember Aviles, followed by Councilmember Joseph.
Monument. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Councilmember Aviles, followed by Councilmember Joseph.
Great. Aviles, right? Okay, here we go. As you've heard me say many times before in this council, my district, District 38, specifically Red Hook, continues to suffer from a lack of regulation. Already overburdened neighborhood of Red Hook. I urge our city agencies to look at this issue holistically, especially as our city may in fact be in violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act by allowing for as-of-right development of these facilities. I am also introducing another piece of legislation, Intro 1050, which seeks to address yet another way Red Hook has been dumped on by this administration. Back in December, the mayor announced that a cruise liner would begin departing from Red Hook Terminal. This decision was made without community input, without elected official review, with no benefit to the local community. The cruise ship alone is estimated to bring another 1,200 tons of toxic fumes to Brooklyn per year, with no consideration given to the existing conditions of last mile or the thousands of vehicles the cruise liner and ferries have brought into the community. Aside from pollution, what we have in Red Hook is untenable traffic and congestion, causing harm to our small businesses, wearing down already dilapidated infrastructure, and threatening pedestrian safety and community health. Intro 1050 will require cruise terminal operators to plug into shore power, which already exists on site but has been neglected by the EDC, and submit traffic mitigation plans in an effort to protect our environmental justice communities. I urge my colleagues to sign on. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we hear from Councilmember Joseph.
Thank you, Majority Leader. In honor of Foster Youth Shadow Day in the Council, as a mom of 2 foster youth, I know how important it is to provide access and opportunity to our foster youth. If we say that young people are the future, we cannot exclude certain youth from that. All youth are the futures, including our foster youth. In just over a little year since being elected to the Council, I'm proud to have worked towards systematic changes that have shed off inequities in our foster youth. For the first time in the history of our school system in New York City, there's an office dedicated to foster youth within the DOE. But our work is not done. We are still in the midst of a recent tragedy that has rippled the hearts of the most compassionate New Yorkers, the horrific murder of Jordan Neely. Jordan Neely was a foster youth and the system failed him. We must remain committed to changing the lives of our fellow New Yorkers, and this council has the ability to do that. To the foster youth here today, I want you to know that you matter, and this council, including myself, will fight for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else signed up? Okay. I'm going to now call on Speaker Adrian Adams to close out today's stated meeting.
Majority Leader, thank you so much. The stated meeting of May 25th, 2023 is hereby adjourned.